All righty, we should be ready to go now. So, welcome everybody. We're very, very excited to be sharing a little bit about engagement today. Our team is from the University of Florida, so we're very, very grateful for Chef National to have this opportunity to come out and share some of our strategies and how we approach engagement here at Chef UF. Again, very, very excited to share a lot of things today. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. To introduce our team briefly, my name is Sebastian Sabrina. I'm the president for SHEP UF. We also have our vice president of research, Stephanie. Steph, if you want to wave, there we go. We have our VP of internal affairs, Grace, as well. And then we also have our vice president of marketing, Tati. There we are. So that's our team. The reason we chose this group in particular to present today is because each one of them plays a critical role in engagement and how we understand, define, and execute engagement here at WF. So we're going to go ahead and get started with marketing, and Tati will take over from here.
Um,
Hello.
Hello.
So,
So,
with
with okay. So one of our first things with engagement is actually our social media. This we use our social media as a hub for all our members to gather any information. So with if you go through our feed, you'll see that we'll have like weekly calendars on there, and that serves the purpose of just having a recap of all the events, and members are able to use that as a source to go back onto the feed and just check and keep an update on when events are. And then to also make sure we're keeping like members reminded about events, we use our stories very often. So we usually try and post a couple hours before the event of that this event's going to be happening on, things that they'll be learning, and then also just live footage of the actual event because you can promote an event as much as possible, but people really want to see what you're doing at the event, not just, okay, they hosted the event, now what else? So we really want to focus on like why people have that. So with that being said, we also have our highlights that you'll see towards the middle of the screen, and we capture our events, our tabling. We have some of our segments, and we just have like members like throughout events or just like how they are there. And this is a way just so like an outside audience is able to capture and see what it feels like to be a member of SHEP UF and not just learning about all the opportunities that we offer. And then when another form of engagement, just to get a larger audience, right now there's been a very large increase of reels. So we try to keep up with as many trends as possible and we try to keep it fun but professional. So if Sebas, you could go to the next slide. In terms of content, this has been something we've been focusing on very often because this is what, from the feedback that we've gathered, our members really want to see just more reels, more things that they're able to enjoy, laugh, and being able to share with other people. So, um, one thing that we've done is just creating like shorter videos to capture like short audience if it's either like a very quick like for promotion, but our longer videos tend to have more like capturing like larger events and being able to highlight as many members as possible. And we want to show a variety of members. We don't want to just focus like if we posted a picture of a member this past week, we won't like post them again like for a little while because we want to capture as many new people. And it's a great feature when people are like, "Oh wow, yeah, I saw myself on there. I want to go back and I want to go back to this event and maybe I'll appear in another picture." So things like that. And one of the other things is with like reels, it's a balance of like keeping it trendy, but also not doing like the trends that are very short term. You want it to be like impactful and long lasting that will be trendy for a while that people are still going to be following constantly. Like there's some reels that we've done a couple months back that it's still getting more engagement because it's a reel doesn't that isn't just viral for a short amount of time. So we definitely want to just make sure that we're keeping that up and just sharing our stories about that. And then next thing is recruitment. So in terms of recruitment, these are some of the strategies that we do use to be able to get people. And during table, we'll be promoting our Instagram. We'll like on our Instagram also share like interest forms. We'll share like ways to contact our e-board or contact directors just to be able to like share that there are these resources available, and we use our link tree just to have as many resources as possible and just make it as accessible. And we also have like our info sessions to ensure that people actually know like what's going on and everything that has to that we have to offer. So we just try and make sure that as much engagement as possible with any of our platforms that we put out there.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I wanted to add something, and the reason we start with marketing and looking at marketing and trying to explain why marketing is important is because it ties into engagement. And when people see, those videos, those reels, all that content that you described, it's something that motivates them to want to come out to events. It's something that appeals to them in terms of, man, this is something cool. Like that they said, like, oh, I might show up in a video or in a picture and those things are effective strategies for engagement. So that's really how our marketing efforts tie into how we engage with people and how we retain people in our chapter. Obviously, there's a lot of ties with recruitment efforts like that they just described there at the end, but a lot of it does go into us keeping our members excited for events and giving our events visibility to our current members for them to build up that hype and want to be excited to show up. So wanted to add that. But for this next part, we'll have our VP Internal Grace talk a little bit about how exactly we define engagement.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into engagement now. Perfect. So understanding engagement. So the internal cabinet very much represents the familia that we try to foster within our chapter. And it's defined with these three main goals. So engagement equals maintaining that connection, that sense of belonging that our members feel when they enter our chapter, and that growth that surpasses that initial wanting to stay within the organization. Like what does that mean in retaining our members, making them feel engaged in not just one aspect, but several. And how we achieve this is very simple. So I have it broken down in three different categories. The first being events and socials. So that's one very, very simple way that keeps our members feeling engaged with one another, making sure that we establish a community. And that can be as simple as creating a s'mores and hot chocolate social for right before convention, or having our athletics set up so we have intramural teams that represent Shep UF, allowing members to connect that way, having wellness events, stuff like that that kind of fits every sort of category that isn't all the serious, intense sort of stuff, but some outlet that gives them the opportunity to bond with one another and really feel like Shep UF is their home. And I feel like that's what creates the biggest impact when we speak about engagement, and what keeps people coming back to Shep UF is realizing like, okay, this is actually a family that I've established within the organization, and there's power to that. So again, creating those really fun, silly, what you may think might be like very, very simple events and socials actually have a really, really great impact in the end. So it's definitely always important to throw those in there occasionally. It has, again, a great opportunity for our members to connect. So secondly, programming is another really big thing. So within the internal cabinet, we have several different programs that again provides that outlet for members to feel engaged in different scenarios. One of those is Shep Dinas. So Shep Dinas is a Shep national program that we have within Shep UF. We have our own distinguished chapter. And that falls under the programming that the internal cabinet offers. So we host a bunch of events for our Shep Dinas exclusively. We did a pumpkin painting social for people to pond, and then we also did a professional panel just last week with a few of our industry sponsors to come in and speak as women in the workforce, to give them that opportunity to engage and connect with those individuals. And that's just one example of some of the programming we have. We also have Mentorship, which is our mentor-mentee program that's designed to give you that sort of guidance and support that you need throughout the semester. So whether it's professional, academic, or if you just need a friend to bond with, that mentorship program is there to guide you. And so you always have that helping hand to be there for you. So that also falls under our programming. One of our new programs that we have is Seniorship as well, that's dedicated to recognizing our seniors within Shep UF. A lot of times these are very, very dedicated members that have had several years worth of leadership experience within our org. They've gone very far. And in that last year, it's important for us to recognize them, all that they've contributed to us, and congratulate them one last time as they conclude their college experience. We wanted to provide that outlet for them as well, so that we have senior dedicated events that are meant to bring them all together for that last hurrah before they graduate. So that's also been a really special program that we've implemented. And that just goes under that programming category again, is creating those specialized programs towards these different outlets that gives our members to engage in a lot of different ways. And then the third being leadership opportunities. So it doesn't just stop with somebody being a member. We want our members to then be the ones representing, be the ones doing this panel even, and give them those leadership opportunities to serve as directors under SHEP UF. So we have several different director positions within each of our cabinets. We try to give them that opportunity to serve as a leader, to contribute to our familia in a much bigger way. And that goes through our leadership opportunities again. So within my cabinet alone, I currently have 30 directors that oversee all of these different programs that I just mentioned. We have Chef Dina's directors, we have senior chef directors, and event even, that are dedicated towards making this experience better for all of our members. And hopefully, the goal is that they get so inspired as a member from all of these different opportunities that we give them, to want to serve the chapter in the end, and be in the position to give that opportunity to other people. So that leadership aspect is extremely important too, in making everybody feel like a familia. In terms of measuring success, so how do we actually know that members are being engaged? And this is a big thing. So as far as tracking goes, how we maintain our attendance is through this thing that we call SHPoints. So at every single event that takes place for SHEP UF, we have an event code, and members are able to go through our app or our SHEP UF website and enter that event code in to receive a SHPoint. Why does this work, you may say? Like, what is the point of even entering in SHPoints to begin with? Not only does it serve as an ability for us to track how our attendance is going at each of our events, and give us that opportunity to see what that turnout is looking like for all of the socials that we plan, and etc., but we provide incentive to our members when we do these SHPoints. So top members will receive perks if they're attending events regularly, if they're maintaining engagement within the chapter. And that's kind of how we've been able to mold this engagement over time, is by using these SHPoints and giving them the opportunity to get merch at the next GBM, to get offered a national convention ticket even through SHEP UF. Stuff like that is what keeps people coming back, and what keeps them wanting to enter those SHPoints in, like you see here on the screen. This is a snapshot of what it looks like to enter your points in through our SHEP UF app, and it actually gives you a ranking and where you fall under the percentile of most engaged members. So it kind of also serves as that competitive sense. You'd be surprised, that actually goes very, very far too. A lot of our members are extremely competitive with one another. They want to make it to the top, and that again makes such a great impact. So in terms of accessibility, again, they're able to see their ranking on the SHEP UF app and website. And not only that, we also include our top members at every GBM, just so that they could also see like where that ranking is falling. Again, promote that engagement, promote that sense of competitiveness with each other, which is always fun. And then on top of that, depending on the statistics that we get, which is something that we're going to go into with Steph now for VP research, all that data that we get, we always make sure to show our members that sort of data that we're receiving, so that they know the impacts that these events are having, that they know that we're recognizing how they feel about certain things, and putting it into action. So if we're receiving certain data points on how socials are going, one of the biggest things that we made sure to announce at our GBMs is that 60% more people noticed that socials was something that they wanted to see improvement on within this year. That was something that we recognized. That was something that we made known at the GBM, that yes, we hear you guys, we hear our members, we know what you guys want, and we'll put that into action again. So we're trying to increase those socials. We've seen that, of course, like members have been maintained engagement, and that's also awesome to see. So those are just a few of the ways that we kind of track how SHEP UF is doing in terms of keeping our members retained, keeping them happy, making sure that we're doing everything that we can to kind of satisfy those needs, and give them the community that we hope to achieve as eBoard. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are some strategies, right? These are some things that we do and we implement on an active daily basis to make sure that we're tracking engagement, right? We define engagement and we know what it means to us. We know what kind of events we want to put on. And then the tools that Grace spoke about, right? Our point system, the way that we actually conduct, feedback forums and collect research, which Steph is going to go into now, and how we actually give that back to our members at our general body meetings and tell them, look, this is what you told us. This is what we're working on. We hear you and we want to improve for you guys. I think at the end of the day, when it comes to engagement overall, that's a very important thing to have in mind is you're serving a group of people and every, maybe year or every semester, that group might change here and there. So it's important to stay in touch with the needs of those groups. And again, Steph is going to jump into the research aspect now and how we conduct internal research within our chapter to better understand what we can provide to our members.
Yep, thank you, Sebas. Hello, everyone. Like Sebas mentioned, my name is Stephanie Manrique, but everybody at Chef UF knows me as Steph, and I'm really excited to share with you guys how our chapter has been using feedback in order to improve our membership engagement. Next slide, please. Every year we see the same challenge of how do we actually know what our members want? We plan events, workshops, and socials, but engagement doesn't just come from guessing, it comes from listening, as they have mentioned before. So when we think about engagement, it's easy to focus on numbers, attendance, meeting turnout, survey responses, but those metrics only really tell part of the story. The real question is, why are members showing up or why are they not showing up? So that's where the feedback comes in. We want to help identify what motivates members to participate, what's preventing them from engaging, how are their needs evolving as the year goes on. And that's something that we want to be intentional about because feedback can become a leadership tool, just formality. So the way that we do that is through our feedback forms. And we want to be really intentional about that. We don't just want to be asking questions to ask questions, but rather right before I send out any feedback form, it's what am I trying to accomplish through this survey? How does it align with the SMART goals that we've decided as an e-board? What data is relevant to the NCP or CMT that we can later leverage? And are there any biases in how we are asking these questions? And this reflection makes sure that our surveys actually mean something and that we can extract useful information from them. So for example, if our SMART goal is to increase professional development participation by 20%, say, we'll ask targeted questions about event timing, topics, and formats instead of generic, did you like it questions. And we'll also make sure to keep the format short. So you want to make sure it's something that people can fill out relatively fast in one sitting, because if not, it's always going to happen where they're like, I'm going to fill it out later. And, it's going to get lost in your millions of tabs on your phone. And then we also add incentives. So things like raffle entries or small giveaways really do boost participation. And this small touch can really make a huge difference in response rates. And that's something that we've seen. And then, like they've said, we like to frame it as your voice is directly what shapes what we do next. So we frame it like you said, we did. So like at our first GBM, we said, hey, this is the feedback that we have from the sprint. You wanted this, and so because of that, now we are implementing this. And an example of that, for example, is like Letty mentioned, people really, really love the reels. They really like laughing at us, and that's okay. We love to give them the content. So now Letty has a schedule, and every Friday she releases reels about the events that are going on throughout the week. And they've received a lot of engagement from the chapter, and people really like to see that format of our events being shown. So that's just an example of the way that we were able to leverage feedback from the spring and actually use it and successfully see that it's, improving in the fall. Next slide, please. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about our central feedback database, which is something that we have. So that's something where it's one place where we can have all of our feedback, because the reality is that there's so many events, and if every event has feedback, you're bound to lose it all. If you have hundreds of directors and all of them are collecting feedback, if you're not keeping it in one centralized place, you're going to lose it and it's no longer going to be useful to you. So we split it into major events. So for example, like GPMs, conferences, and then minor events like social study tablings. And you want to have the raw data. So you want to keep things like Google Forms where you have these Excel sheets and things like that. And then you want to keep like your graphs and things all organized in one place. And this structure helps, future directors and people who take over positions easily find this because I mean, I can even say when I took over my position, sometimes it's like, you can start to lose things within a Google Drive, no matter how organized you are. So it's not just a folder, it's a system. Um, but yeah. And then feedback and action loops. So we summarize key takeaways after each event and we assign follow-up actions to directors. So for example, we do that through our SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I can show you a live SWOT analysis of our central feedback database just so you get an idea of how that works. So you would describe a strength. So for example, a strength would be that our feedback system is centralized, it's consistent, and that it's transparent. But a weakness is that it's manual. So you still have to go in and do it to Google Form. It's not exactly a Power BI dashboard that it's not automized yet. An opportunity is an opportunity for growth. So creating engagement dashboards, that's an example of an opportunity for growth. And then threats. A threat could be like low response rates. You send out a Google form, nobody responds to it. And these aren't just like things that you do and you forget about. They're meant to be living documents, living checklists that you pass down to directors and they can actively use that feedback and implement them throughout their succession. Yeah, to wrap up, key message, engagement isn't just built on events, but it's built on better listening. So when members feel seen, heard, valued, everything else follows. So there's stronger turnout, better retention, and more meaningful connections. And that's something that we are focused on. So how we listen to our members, where we can create that transparency and how we can create that close loop. So thank you guys. Pass on to notes.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that, Steph. And something I wanted to add to in how we specifically collect feedback, because we want to collect feedback that's meaningful, right? One of the big things we do, and we try to do this with a lot of our feedback forms, is make them anonymous. Anonymity at the time of, submitting a feedback form makes people feel a little bit safer and makes them feel like they can be a little bit more honest. And with that, we try to actually gear our feedback forms to know what we can improve, not so much what we're doing well. Because if we were to share a feedback form that asks, like, oh, did you think this was good? Or did you think this was a fun activity? It's easier for somebody to say, oh, yes, like this was a fun activity, or this is so how we structure those questions in terms of how we want people to think of them and approach them is something we're very very meticulous about because we want to know what we can improve. We're not so interested in what we're doing good. We know that there's a lot of things that we do good, but what can we do better? And we do that very very consciously through those specific questions on the feedback forms, and already we've seen a lot of success with some of the feedback forms. So we had one at the beginning of the year for our first GBM. And an incentive for that was SHEP National Convention registration. So we had everybody at the first GBM fill that out and raffled off a registration. And we got a lot of great feedback from that. We also did a feedback form after our recent Region 7 North Florida sub-regional retreat, where we had a Region 7 leadership team and other chapters from North Florida come out here to UF. And we received a lot of great feedback there as well. Many other examples here and there of other events where we will send out feedback forms at the end of them to collect feedback, and that's how we can continuously improve. And I'm going to take on this last section on taking action, which kind of sums up everything we've been talking about today. But those are some things that I wanted to touch on as well before moving forward. So with that, few things here. So when we're looking into taking action, we have to ask ourselves a few questions, and we want to, something that's important, and I mentioned it earlier, is every member is different, and every semester our member body will look differently. So how can we maintain variability, diversity in the types of events we do to engage our members is something really, really important. Um, Something that we found really, really useful for this is finding people that are passionate about specific topics. When people come up to us with new ideas and new things they want to do because it's something that they're passionate about, that gives us the opportunity to offer something new to our members. And it's being brought by somebody who really enjoys this topic. So that gives us variability. So we do that, right? We have a process for selecting directors and we send out applications and we have people share ideas, right? We don't necessarily just give them a template and say, look, this is how this program is ran and this is how you should do it. No, a lot of it is creative, right? What new ideas are you going to bring? How are you going to, help showcase the passion you have for this subject? So here I actually have a picture of Marvin on the top left and our treasurer Carolina, who run the finance chef program. And they're both super passionate about financial literacy topics. So Marvin knows a lot about credit cards and a lot about wanting to help others as well and how to help others with those financial literacy topics. And they do a great job at our finance chef workshops. So I wanted to really highlight that. That's one of the big ways we can maintain variance throughout the semester. Something else too that's important because throughout the year, there's different focus areas in the types of programs and events we want to share with our members. How do we balance it all, right? How do we balance technical, social, professional development activities? How do we balance all those? And we make a really big effort at looking at the overall context of the year, right? If we're leading up to convention, a lot of the focus during the fall for us is going to be in providing our members professional development opportunities. So we'll have our Chef Barbecue with Industry, we'll have our boot camp series to get our members ready for convention and for all these career fairs. So we want to focus on that. So it's all about the context throughout the school year and what we want to give attention to because we feel we know would be most beneficial to our member. And this ties into the research aspect. We ask our members what would be most beneficial to you, what kind of events are you looking for, right? And we do our best to tailor that throughout the year. Throughout the year, it looks differently. In the spring, we have a lot more focus on more social events. Our bigger events are held throughout the spring, like our Goals for Tomorrow tournament and our hackathon. So those bigger events we do in the spring because we know the spring is a little bit longer. We have to worry not too much about professional stuff and we can maybe dedicate more time to those social activities. We also know summer is coming up, so we want to make sure we wrap up the year nicely for our members. So that's something important too when we look at how we, design these engagement opportunities for all our members. Oh, something else as well that's really, really important. Like I was saying, every semester the member body might look different, but something unique is that every year we have a new class of students, but we also have a class of students that was new the prior year, who is now in their second year, and then so on and so forth up to our seniors. And every class has different needs. Freshmen are more likely to need professional development resources rather than seniors. Seniors maybe want something that's more social to create memories during their last year. Like Grace was saying, we have our senior chef program for that. So that's something that we really, really try to keep in mind. And how exactly do we engage students from different classes? We need to be aware of these member types, right? So we need to have open communication and targeted communication. That's my second point there. That allows us to really understand what these specific classes of members want and need. And a lot of times on the board, we'll have a variance of people. We'll have some people that are seniors, some people that are juniors, maybe some people that are sophomores. But outside of that, we need to make an effort to be aware of the member types and their needs. What exactly do they want to see from us? And in terms of strategies, like I mentioned, we need to have targeted communication. So we make sure to have open lines of communication. And part of it is through our research. Our feedback forms will ask, what year are you? That's one of the very first questions we ask. What year are you? And from there, automatically, we get to separate, all these responses into their different classes. And that allows us to get a broader perspective on how these classes have different needs. Something else that's really, really important, and a question we always ask ourselves is how can we tailor our engagement efforts to appeal to incoming and returning members? Those are also two different types of members, right? Members that are coming in, but also members that are coming back. This is something that's really, really important for us, especially at the beginning of the year. That's when we have our biggest influx of new members. And for this, we have to remain dedicated to our existing members, but we also have to find ways to integrate our new members, not just within SHAP as a whole, but with our returning members. So we have a lot of programs that are dedicated to our first year students, but those programs are actually led by students that are second year or third year or fourth year students. And that already breaks down a barrier. And they feel like, oh, okay, I have these people who are older that I could talk to. A big help in this aspect is our mentorship program as well. Our mentorship program allows us to pair up new members with returning members. And that is a really, really, really strong way of how we are able to integrate all these new members. And then lastly, another important question for us is how do we use metrics? What role do metrics play in identifying which member segments need more focus? And this is where it all ties into that research aspect. How do we analyze our data that Steph and her team collects, and how can we communicate that effectively to Grace and her team on the internal side so that they can come up with events that are most beneficial to all our members. That's something that's really, really important, and that's how we're able to continuously improve throughout the year and throughout multiple years down the line as well. So wanted to add that as well there at the end to highlight that because it's really a team effort. That's why all four of us are on the call today to really showcase that. Lastly, something we wanted to mention as well is how do we re-engage inactive members? This is yet another member type, and it's sometimes challenging to get these members or convince these members to want to come back. So the first thing we ask ourselves when looking at inactive members is, how can we identify and re-engage those members who have become inactive? And the first thing we look at is why, right? Why did they become inactive in the first place? How can we get a better sense of where they're at currently? Maybe, this following semester that they became inactive, they just had more classes, or they got involved in research, or they got a co-op, or they just started working, or there's a lot of different things for members at the individual level that cause them to maybe become inactive. So we start there. Why did they, become inactive this semester, or how are they, doing outside of SHEP? How can we help them become further involved? That's how we start, building together a strategy to understand how to bring them back. So in terms of, what types of events or outreach strategies are most effective in bringing them back to become active, once we get all that understanding of why these members are maybe inactive, we can provide targeted incentives to these members, right? A big example of this is our senior chef program. And I'll talk about this for a little bit. A lot of these members will come in as freshmen. They receive help, they get a mentor, they might do a director position or two, during their sophomore or junior year. But once they're a senior, the chances that they have a job lined up are very high, and the chances that they know that many new people in SHEP are lower. So they might feel a little bit pushed away or discouraged from wanting to engage more actively. And our seniorship program is a great way, a great example on how we provide an incentive for them to want to remain involved. So something we do in the program, which is really, really cool, and this is a program we started this year, is that we have a series of challenges that are aimed at the seniors with the goal of having them create memories during their last year. And it's things that are most applicable to seniors. So we want them to do these challenges and take pictures, spend time with one another, and at the end of the program, if they complete all these challenges, they receive a nice plaque saying they're a Shep UF alumni and that they completed the seniorship program. And so that there's different things we provide them, but that's one of the examples of a really cool incentive that we found to be very, very effective. And fortunately, this year so far, we've had a really active senior chef group. So we're excited to continue, that program and continue retaining those members and maybe members that are inactive, finding out ways to bring them back. So with that, that kind of concludes what we have for today. We have a slide for questions. Miriam, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But that's what we have for today.
Thank you guys. I don't have any questions for you all, but I just want to take a second to kind of highlight what I gathered from your presentation, which was phenomenal. And thank you guys for being here today and just sharing all of your knowledge and all of your insight from being one of our top chapters. Overall, my biggest takeaway is you guys are so intentional in what you do, and there's so much opportunity to engage members. But at the core of every single effort is intentionality, whether it's from asking your members, hey, we don't want to know if it was good. We want to know what we can do better, right? Being transparent with them and sharing all of the data, and saying, hey, this is the feedback that you guys shared with us, and this is how we plan to implement it. So it makes them feel like you really are listening to them. And then from going into the mindset every single year of saying, we feel like we have it down, but last year it's a different audience than we have for this year. And so we still have to keep an open mind, and we still have to understand their needs because they're different people that we're dealing with this year, right? And wanting to really serve the members of your chapter, I think is phenomenal. And that can be done at a scale like yours. It can be done scaled down for smaller chapters. It works through and through because you care and you're showing up and you're being intentional of how you do that. I loved hearing about how you engage folks from different classes, and I think that's something that I haven't heard enough of. But it matters, right? Because you have a very different need when you're a freshman versus when you're a senior. And I think the icing on the cake and the cherry on top to all of what you've shared is not only are you focusing on the members you don't stop there. You're like thinking about the members that haven't engaged. You wonder why, you're curious about it, and you want them to come back because at the end of the day, everyone needs support and everyone needs a community, and you want to be that for them. And so to go out of your way to reach out to them is so impactful and so meaningful. So I just want to take a moment. Grace, Steph, Tati, Sebas, you guys are doing an amazing job, you and your team. I know there's a whole team behind you. So thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you for having your evening here with us. And so with that, we can go ahead and wrap up for tonight. But thank you guys so much for being here and supporting. And I'm so excited to see all of you guys at convention next week.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Miriam, for the opportunity and to Chef National. We were very, very excited to receive, the chance to share some of this. And I'm glad. I'm glad it was helpful. And again, if anybody, watching the recording has any questions or anything at any time, definitely, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to help. So yeah,
Thank you guys so much. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your evening. Sebas, if you want to go ahead and stop the recording for us.
will do. Will do.